Hi everyone, and welcome to a Road to Cheltenham focus piece on the Dublin Racing Festival. We wanted to keep our main show focused on the actual action and usual analysis from Ruby about that, but we recognise that last weekend's racing at Leopardstown in particular has brought to sharper focus some ongoing issues that we've discussed about this sport on an Anglo-Irish landscape. So Ruby and I are going to discuss what the wider media made of the Dublin Racing Festival and also what you did as well. First of all, let's hear from Alan Sweetman, who wrote in the Racing Post. He mentioned that it was more like an equine beauty pageant than an expression of sporting theatre. There's some splendid performances from authentic stars of the sport, but the sense of drama was a well-crafted illusion, a triumph of hype over substance. What's your reaction to Alan's reaction to the Dublin Racing Festival?
Yeah, look, the beauty of our sport is everyone has an opinion, is entitled to an opinion, and that was Alan's. I guess at times it did lack the drama, as in it probably lacked a wow performance, and I think that definitely adds to it. Statement, I don't think it's ever going to be wow. I didn't think El Fabiolo was, but yeah, I can see his point of view. Not necessarily agreeing with it. I enjoyed it, I was there, but I can see how he came to his opinion.
Now, I really do not want to personalise this, but one of the aspects is that one trainer, it happens to be Willie Mullins, and there's a reason for that. Willie Mullins is an excellent trainer and he's built up a fabulous operation over the years, but he won all 8 Grade 1 races and 9 of the 15 races. That's one of the impacts I think that people are talking about.
Yeah, look, that's not a debate that I'm ever going to win because people perceive me to be in the camp. So I looked at it completely different. I thought, did I ever think there would be a day where Willie Mullins would win all Grade 1s at a meeting like that? No. I think it was an incredible achievement. But as I said, I'm inside the camp, so my view is completely biased on that.
Okay, well, let's have a look at what Kevin Blake made of this. He wrote in At the Races, and he's got 2 ideas, essentially. On this page, he's talking about ruthlessly reducing the graded race options throughout the season to make sure that there is more competition and people don't have options to, maybe duck races. And also he wants the Cheltenham Festival to properly tackle itself to make sure that it is a proper championship showcase for the sport. But he believes that there is a solution for equalising opportunity in horse racing, and he believes that that is the handicap system. And he is arguing here that more top races should be run as handicaps, and that's because, such is the nature of that system, it would spread the success and prize money among a wider variety of trainers, owners and jockeys. It would incentivise new ownership in the sport, because at the moment the top end seems only to be accessible to those with exceptionally deep pockets. Let's take it in 2 parts. Ruthlessly pruning the graded chase programme, and hurdle programme.
Yeah, you can prune it, but does it mean any more horses are going to be in the division? I actually don't think it does. Kevin said somewhere in that article too, he thought there was an overnight solution. I wish there was. I personally don't think there is. And again, Kevin isn't here to argue his side of the debate, so there's no point in us tearing it apart. But I don't think there's an overnight solution to it. I think you can make all the Grade 1s Grade 2s, but the same horses are running in them. I don't think that widens the scope. You can then say, well, we'll turn them all into handicaps. I still couldn't see Constitution Hill running against Sweetman in a handicap, if I'm being brutally honest. And then you look at the handicaps. We had a 2-mile handicap hurdle in Ascot just before Christmas for £150,000. There was 9 runners. Like, that system doesn't seem to be working either. I think when you look into something like that, it seems to throw up more questions. Like, where are the horses? Why have the bigger trainers gotten bigger? Where are the horses to fill up the handicaps? And even looking at the Dublin Racing Festival handicaps, like in the 8 years it's been on, there's 5 handicaps at the Dublin Racing Festival. Only 2 of them have ever filled. Whereas the quantity seems to be slightly missing as well as the other ones getting polarised. But even if you look at it, like, I know it's perceived that you need deep pockets to own the best jump horse, but surely that theory should match with the flat, because if you need deep pockets for jumping, you need them down to your ankles on the flat. And if you look at just even look at the classics, the British classics, there's 5 British classics. Aidan O'Brien has won 42% of them in the last 10 years. That's polarisation too.
Well, I don't think that the flat can sit happy either. I think that this is an issue for the sport. And in his article, Kevin talks about other sports having put things in place, like the draft in NFL, financial fair play, tiger-proofing courses, Schumacher-proofing Formula One, doing some things to ensure that there is a broader spread of people who can actually achieve, and therefore, crucially, maintaining viewers' interest. Because without spectators, without people who want to see your sport, you haven't got a sport.
No, you don't. But the biggest thing that happened to golf was Tiger Woods. They tried to tiger-proof the courses, but Tiger Woods was the biggest draw, and still is. He's going to play it next weekend, and he will drive television figures through the roof. I don't know anything about Formula One, so I'm not going to talk about that. The draft, well, there's only a certain amount of teams, so it's much easier to have a draft, whereas racing, when we were having this chat yesterday, people like someone else, like James, explained to us, well, like, it's an open market in racing compared to the NFL, and financial fair play, that might work in racing. That means you can't lose too much money. That's how it works in soccer. You can spend all you want, but you can only lose a little over 100 million a year. So you have to be selling as well. Maybe something along those lines. But I guess when you look at any sport, if the rules are changed because of one or two people, that's probably the greatest achievement you can have in any sport.
What do you think? I mean, you've given an extreme example about Constitution Hill and Stateman and a handicap. Surely pushing more horses together and equalising chances within it has got to help in terms of making the racing more competitive. And certainly at the Cheltenham Festival, it diluted. Once we had 4 days, we had a dilution of events. It means that horses can miss each other, even at the festival, which is meant to be the culmination. And I think over time, that has been coming home to roost. And it's married with the point that you're making, that there is an underlying problem, one that we've discussed for a very long time, which is a supply problem. You know, the horses coming in at the level that you need, of the quality that is needed, actually coming into racing. And so it's happening at 2 levels. So you've got fewer coming in, and then they've got more options once they're there. That's
why I jokingly said at the top of the main show that you could spend an hour at this, because to me it is much, much broader than sticky plasters like handicaps and pruning the pattern. They can help, but to actually solve the problem is a much, much bigger thing. Yeah, I do tend to agree with that. And I think we've got a similar situation in Britain with Premier Racing, whereby I think the consolidation of the race programme is a short-term solution. What is actually needed is a much more long-term plan. This is the same thing. It's the same plan, in fact. If you're going to... I can understand making some changes, the kind of changes that Kevin has suggested, as a sticking plaster without the pejorative meaning to that, in the short term, to make things better, to make things more competitive. But in the long term, you're going to need a 20-year plan to completely change how the supply to the sport is. I've heard of 5-year plans, a 20-year plan. Well, I think it's, with breeding, it's going to take that long, if I'm being realistic. Of course it is with breeding. But even small things, even when you look at the handicap system, like, in Ireland, the original handicap range was £35. It's been reduced now to sort of 26. So even when you go about talking about handicaps and you go back to great weight carrying performances, that'll never happen anymore, because when we raised the bottom weights, we never raised the top weight. So we made the handicap more condensed already. So I think there's loads of issues. And look, the supply and demand, the filter system now has to widen the big yards. Not so much why do they have the good horses, it's how come they have very few poor horses. Because to me, the filter system to getting proven horses, form horses, like what Willie Mullins has, the majority of what Gordon Elliott has, by buying form horses, you're reducing your chance of buying one that's no good. And the top trainers are buying very few poor horses. They're not buying all champions, but don't have to buy their share of ordinary ones anymore either. In this review, it would encompass point-to-point racing, the whole sales process. Breeding, when we breeding, even when we rule the world. To incentivise, like, as I said, I have 1/3 of a brood mare, but to incentivise owner breeders and breeders, it goes back that far. I don't think, and look, we're not going to tear anyone's opinion apart, but I think when you look at it, there's a huge thing that needs to be looked into on both jumping and the flat. Agreed. I think it's both. But just in case you think that this is just the media navel gazing, let's have a look at what you all thought about it, because we did ask you,
And first of all, Louise Colgate said that she would never consider going to the Dublin Racing Festival after this weekend's racing. No question it's high quality horses on show, but it's so tedious. Gives us some insights ready for March, but not much else. I'd prefer to tune in for some Class 5s on the all-weather, frankly. Steve Moulton thinks that 8 Grade 1s going to one trainer is the real story, and it's a worrying one for the long-term health of Irish national hunt racing. Josieka Posey agrees with that. His monopoly is bad for national hunt racing. Again, nothing against Willie Mullins. I think everybody admires what has been achieved, and this is not picking on one person, it's just talking about what the impact on the sport is. Tom Gallagher's talking about the Grades 1 were predictable enough, the handicaps were pretty good, and there were some pointers to the festival. If we head towards Ian Bent, he begins by saying Irish racing is broken. Aside from Mullins' brilliance, anyone who thinks this is good for the long-term future of the sport is crackers. Literally all the best horses in one yard can't be good. Banter Lee makes the point, why don't some English trainers send a few over? Well, quite. We had 3 runners, 1 winner.
Go Sophie.
Yeah, good. Well done, Sophie Leach, for sending horses over that treacherous journey over the Irish Sea. Dennis Traynor says, kudos to Leopardstown for getting a fantastic, well-behaved crowd. He would expect, on leaving, over 90% were very satisfied. Some were complaining about the length of the queues to the loos, the bars, the ATM, and I'm sure that Leopardstown will address that next year. You don't want to feel overcrowded. And Thomas Cravenard just thinks it's all about moaning. And Thomas, can I compliment you on your use of the space bar?
Final thoughts. I think that there's new positions in Ireland. Both Richard Pugh and Jonathan Mullen have come in. This is something they'll have to look at in Ireland. I'm sure you have the same in the UK.
I hope we do.
But I'm just not sure that there's an overnight solution, and just cutting Grade 1s is not going to expand the pool of horses, unfortunately.
Okay, and does it have any risks involved, cutting Grade 1s?
I don't think so. I mean, you look at a Grade 2, you see, make the Morgiana, the Matheson, make them Grade 2s. You still have the same 5 runners, only Sweetman has to carry an extra 5 pounds. He's still going to win. And
making them handicaps, does that have any risks?
I think it would have making them handicaps, because the gulf between Sweetman and the next horses down, I think only 5 horses from the handicap hurdle at the weekend would have been in the handicap if Sweetman ran it.
And does it have any devaluation at all on it?
It probably has devaluation on selling the dream. Can you please come and give $500,000 for a handicapper? I don't think that's the dream anyone wants to buy, and that has ramifications on the value of horses. We saw the Caldwell sale holding the value up, and again, you're looking at all those people that are invested and the money they've put in. If you start downgrading the product, you downgrade the value. So again, it's this huge, huge issue.
Although some people would say that the sales ring has become entirely disconnected from the prize money. I
probably wouldn't disagree.
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't disagree with that either.
Yeah. Well, I think we've ended up with more questions than answers, really.
But that's where we were always going to end up, I think, personally. And as I said, we could sit here easily for an hour.
Right, OK. Well, I hope that you've appreciated the fact that we have tried to tackle the views about the Dublin Racing Festival. That was our intent, without detracting from the main show, but we think that this requires action from a strategy from the top of the sport, both in Ireland and England, and it's going to take several years to come to fruition. Good luck with it.